welcome. Great. I see we have a couple of people here. Um, Hello and welcome. My name is Katherine Lawrence. I am glad that you're on my channel today. I am a certified professional organizer. I'm a certified KonMari consultant. I've been organizing homes and spaces since 2002. I'm really looking forward to when I could just say 20 years instead of, 19 years or whatever it's been. So I've been in this industry a long time and I'm here to answer questions about working as a professional organizer. I've done so many things over this last nearly 20 years. I've worked with Hoarders. I've um, gone through the KonMari certification. I've worked with families and seniors, and I've done relocation work, and I've hired organizers and trained organizers. So I've done so many things in this industry. And a couple of years ago, I said, why don't I just put all of this up on YouTube? So I'm actually still in the process of sort of uploading all of my information to my YouTube channel. And yeah, I hope in 2021 to bring you guys a lot of good content as well. So what I'm doing today is answering questions. I've got a couple of questions that you guys already sent in, and I'll be starting with those. But feel free to, at any time during this video, I'll be on here probably a little bit over, well, at least about an hour. I mean, it really is kind of up to you guys if we have a lot of questions today, but I'm happy to spend the next, hour or so with you guys answering questions about the professional organizing business. Let me just open this up on my own channel. So I should say my own computer to make sure everything is working here. Okay, perfect. Get through the 5-second ad. Yeah, so I'll be answering questions that people sent in over the last couple of weeks, and then feel free to put your questions in the comments of this video. So I'll chat for a little bit, and then I'll go to the comments and answer questions about working as a professional organizer. The videos on my channel, if you're new to my channel, I talk about, starting your business, setting up your business, getting the right forms and advisors to help you get your business off the ground, and marketing. I get a lot of questions about how do you find clients. And I've got a lot of answers to that. It's usually a very long-winded answer because there's a lot of factors that go into finding clients, from establishing the type of organizer that you're going to be and reaching out to that target market and kind of meeting them where they are. What are they attending live workshops and seminars? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram? Are you going to, connect through a parent or another family member, and how all of that's going to work? So the questions that I already have that have come in are, I have a question about the referral process, like having people refer business to you or clients refer business. So I'll get to that. And I had a really great question, sort of a 2 or 3 part question from Melanie about the physical and mental or sort of emotional toll that working as a professional organizer can take on our bodies and our minds. So I've got a lot of advice for you guys today about staying sort of physically fit to do this job, and the sort of physical requirements and how to adjust to that, and then also the I guess emotional, how to really not overwhelm your client or give your client something called decision fatigue. And I have definitely some great strategies and tips for that. So when you come in today, I see a couple of people are here already. Go ahead and I'd love for you to just say hi, in the chat. Let me know where you're from, and tell me where you are in your professional organizing journey. If you are just thinking about becoming an organizer, or have you started working with paid clients? Kind of where are you in that process? So let's get into our first question. Um, Still, sorry. Whenever wherever a comment pops up, I'm like, ooh, what is it? I'm still finding a client struggling. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that whole issue of having clients let go, and actually, what I'm going to talk about with decision fatigue, the strategy I have, it may help you. It may help with that. But also, your client has to kind of get there, mentally and emotionally. Sometimes people ask me about like estimating my time and how quickly it's going to take me to do a project. And I always say, I'm working at your pace. That's what I would tell the client or, prospective client is, if it is a struggle for you to let things go, and like in the example that came through the chat, um, the client has multiple storage units and all of these things, which I've certainly dealt with and experienced. It comes down to the pace that that person can make decisions. And one strategy I'll just throw out there with you guys right now, because I've had to use this strategy in working with hoarders and families of hoarders. Sometimes the best thing that that person can do is allow someone else to make the decisions for them. Now, it might take a while for you to get there with your client if you are the person that they want to trust to make those decisions. I tend to try to get like a family member or a friend involved, and then have those decisions delegated to that person. And we can talk a little bit more about how that works if you guys are dealing with clients with extreme clutter. And sometimes there really is just a deadline on that. Maybe they're getting evicted, or maybe they have fees from the county or city that they live in, and that type of thing. So let's go back to Melanie's question, because I thought it was really good. Let me see if I can kind of paraphrase. So she's talking about the physical challenges of working with a client, and also some mental fatigue. So she says that she's trying to do things like squat instead of bend over, not carry or move items that are too heavy, sit on the floor when I'm sorting through something with good posture, but somehow it's not enough. So those are all excellent tips, by the way. I am very aware of my body mechanics when I'm working this job. So I am aware of my posture. I try to move around. One of the worst things I think you can do is stay in the same position. So staying like bent over. I'll tell you something that always hurts my back: folding clothes on the bed. That kills it for me. It's like the worst thing that I can do. So I try to do a table, or I'll actually get on my knees, and so that the top of the bed is kind of at this type of level, or I'll just change positions. Maybe I'll fold clothes for a while, maybe I'll hang clothes for a while, and sort of move around. So one, I would be very aware of the position that you're in and make sure not to hold that position for very long. I strongly recommend that you guys have some type of stretching routine. I like to do yoga and a combination of stretching, and a lot of walking, and just trying to keep my endurance and stamina up. Professional organizing can be one of those jobs where you are on your feet all the time. You may not get to rest much when you are moving and carrying things around, with your client. So keep that in mind when you're booking your sessions. One of my tricks is, so I used to do 4 hour sessions and 8 hour sessions. I have gone more to 3 hour to 6 hour sessions. The 8 hours was just a little much for me, not necessarily physically, but it was hard for me to run my business after being gone for 8 hours. And then I would come to my office and I would try to return phone calls and do some marketing. And it just, the days got to be really long. So you can always adjust the amount of time that you spend with a client. And one of my best tips, and something that I figured out really early on, is to mix the type of work you do. So when I'm scheduling my week, I am very aware of the types of jobs that are going to be very physically demanding and the jobs that are not going to be physically demanding. So the ones that are not physically demanding to me are paperwork jobs. Anytime I'm doing like paper filing, or just I can usually sit in someone's office or at their kitchen table and we can sort paper and label folders, or sometimes I'm at the computer. I have a client who I get together with about once a month, and I help her organize her finances. And I'm sitting at her computer. So that is a very low physical job. And so what I'll do is I'll look at my week and I say, okay, on Monday, maybe I have like an extreme clutter job. I'm going to be on my feet. I'm going to be, moving and carrying a lot of things. And I know it's going to be very physically demanding. I will try to then on the next day do a paperwork job or something that I know, working with a client that will be less demanding. Another service that I offer, which is very low on the physically demanding side, are consultations. This could be an initial consultation with a new client, or this may be just a consultation that I'm doing as a service. Those are very low physical demand. I'm not really moving things around. We're not really making a lot of decisions. So I would kind of pepper those into my schedule so that I know, okay, I'm going to have maybe 2 days unpacking a house. Then the next day, I'm going to maybe have an office day. Then I'm going to have a paper organizing day. And then I'm going to do consultations. So just be mindful. And that's why I personally don't like to do back to back unpacking jobs, because I think those are some of the most physically demanding jobs that I do. Next to that, it would be just extreme clutter, where you're just kind of packing and moving things a lot. So I don't do those jobs 100%, and um, I don't do those jobs back to back. So that gives me a little bit of a physical break. And that's what we're talking about, just that physical, demand that this job can take, on your body. So be aware of the body mechanics, do your stretching and yoga, generally try to stay in shape. I mean, I exercise and I play sports, outside of organizing. So I try to push myself a little bit physically, in my free time with hiking and all of those things, so that the organizing piece is less demanding. And yeah, sometimes I call it going to the gym. Like when I have a job where I know I'm going to be going up and down steps a lot, or carrying things, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to the gym now. And I don't have to actually go to a gym later because the organizing at someone's house is my gym. So, just be aware of the days that are going to be pretty physically demanding. Good. I see a bunch of you guys have joined. What we're doing is answering questions about the professional organizing business. I've got a couple of questions that people have already sent in, and go ahead and put your questions in the comments. And I'm going to answer a couple of questions that I've gotten ahead of time, and then I'm going to move over. Awesome. I see some great questions coming in, and some comments. So I look forward to chatting with you guys. Thank you for joining me. I actually have one more tip about the physical demands of the organizing job, and that is to use your assistants or a hauling company to help sort of reduce a little bit of that burden. I put out a video recently about working with hauling companies, and when I have a big downsizing job, whole home downsizing, or a post hoarding clear out, or extreme clutter. Honestly, even just kind of staging a house to sell. I mean, sometimes there's just a lot of stuff in the house. So what I'll do is have the hauling company, instead of me carrying all those bags of toys and clothes and papers and trash up and down the stairs into my car, I will just stage them in the room that I'm working in. And then when the hauling company comes, I can just say, I can walk them through each room and say, there's the trash, there's the recycle, there's the donations. And so I'm not doing all that up and down staircase work. And do not fill those bags and boxes too heavy. The only injury I've ever gotten, knock on wood, working as a professional organizer, was carrying clothing in black contractor bags. So just be careful. I tend to stay away from black contractor bags because they just get really heavy. I've even gone to jobs where clients have packed up their own donations and I've had to repack them because they're impossible to move. If you take a black contractor bag and you fill it with clothing or papers, it's not a good idea to move that. You could definitely hurt yourself. So just be aware of what you're carrying around. And if it's just going to be too much, think about how you can bring in some other help on those jobs. So that's the physical demanding side of the job and some tips that can alleviate that. The other part of the question is the mental. The mental exhaustion that we can even face as organizers. Of course, your client faces it as well, but the mental exhaustion of just being with someone and making decision after decision for a number of hours can actually lead to decision fatigue. So my number one and best tip, this has always worked for me. Well, a couple of things I should say. Always be in touch with your client because clients have different levels of what is going to wear them out emotionally. So just kind of be aware of that. I do like to work in categories when I'm organizing, but I will definitely switch to another task if I find someone just getting really kind of exhausted, working in one area. And the most emotionally exhausting categories are papers and sentimental items. Everything can be emotionally exhausting for your client depending on their state of mind, but those two in particular, papers. So when I work on papers, I don't do 8 hours of papers. I do a little bit shorter sessions on that. Okay, but my number one tip is to pre-sort for your client. So let's say we're doing a paperwork session. I'm organizing papers or decluttering papers for my client. I will often, I'll have a little consultation so I kind of know where my client is as far as like how long to keep paper and, what's going on and different things. So I'll kind of have a general idea of what's going on in their life and what papers they need and do not need. Then I'll kind of send them away while I do some sorting because I can pre-sort those papers without overwhelming them with questions. So if you are going through papers and you're like, okay, what about this? Do you need this bill? Do you need this investment statement? Do you need this legal document? Everyone's going to be exhausted in about 20 minutes. So please do not do that. Don't do that with clothing either. Don't do that with any category. What you want to do is pre-sort into categories, and that's that first step is the gather and sort. Do that as much as you can, and then walk your client through big decisions. So for example, with papers, let's say I go in and there's just a huge dining room table and it's just stacked with papers, a foot tall, which of course has happened to me before. I will go in and I will sort, maybe even for an hour. I will go in and sort that paper even without my client. I'm not throwing anything away, I'm just sorting it. And then I will say to my client, I'll say one thing. I'll say, how long do you want to keep bank statements? And, we may have a discussion about that. And then they say, 1 year. Or maybe we're going to get rid of all the paper bank statements because we're moving to online banking. So that was only one question that I asked. And because I've already sorted the papers and I know where all the bank statements are and I know what year they are and I know, that these are older than a year or these are recent, I've only asked the client one question and I would be able to eliminate maybe 20% of the papers on that dining room table. So the gather and sort process is very powerful for reducing decision fatigue. And please don't ever just go to your client's house and ask them questions for 3 hours or 5 hours or 8 hours because it will utterly exhaust you and them. So that is probably my best advice for not overwhelming your client and overwhelming yourself emotionally. The other thing, with the emotional decision making, I did a video. It's on my channel a while ago about the typical day. For me as a professional organizer, this was pre-COVID, so it's changed a little bit. But a typical day, and I talked about contracting, which is working for other professional organizers. And when I want to work 5 days a week out in the field, out with clients, I will put in a couple of days that I work with other organizers because it's way less, it takes a less emotional toll on me than being the primary organizer with every single client I have. So I don't know if that's going to be an option for all of you guys, but that's just one thing. If I'm going to work out in the field 5 days a week, that is the way that I would kind of mix it in so that it's not as mentally, it's not as much of a causes as much mental fatigue. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, you guys, this might not be a job you can just do 5 days a week if it's mentally and physically exhausting to you. So think about the hours that you can work, if it's 15 hours a week or 20 hours a week, and then price your services accordingly so that, you spend some time in your office, doing your marketing, training, and research, and you spend some time with your clients. And I hope you can find, some balance that way. Awesome. Let me go through our comments here, and then I've got another question that came in earlier that I'll try to remember to answer. Yeah, so we're talking about, this is amazing. So your client spends 3,000 per month in storage units. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, storage units, occasionally I will recommend them to my clients if they're just in transition as a short-term solution. Like, let's say they are downsizing, but their new home isn't ready, and so they need to kind of go somewhere for a couple of months. Storage units are fine for temporary storage, but boy, the cost really rack up. And I've had clients like that just have things in storage and they just are postponing those decisions. And yeah, I've definitely spent some time at storage units working as a professional organizer, and I hope that she's in the mood to let go. I mean, that financial burden should certainly be some motivation. Hey, so Amanda's here, San Francisco Bay Area. I'm getting ready to join Napo and get certified. I have some experience, but I know I have so much to learn. Yes, so the Napo certification is that I have that certification, and you'll make sure, a couple of pieces of advice to you. Make sure you track all of your paid time with clients, because that certification requires that you have all that time, 1,250 hours to 1,500 hours of time with your clients. You can substitute some of those hours with training courses. So you can get some of those training courses through NAPO, and my course, the Intro to Professional Organizing course, I designed to be, I think, 2 hours of continuing education units. So keep that in mind if you're looking for extra training. And when you join NAPO, any of you guys who are joining NAPO for the first time, be sure to take those initial classes as soon as possible. So when you join, there's a couple of classes you need to take to move from sort of provisional status to professional status. Go ahead and take those like right off the bat, because in order to be listed on the NAPO website, you have to have moved to professional status. So do try to do that as soon as possible, because that's one of the big benefits, is to be listed on that national website. I've gotten referrals from other organizers because from outside of my area, because I am in that national directory. So that's a huge benefit. And you don't get that just from joining NAPO. You have to take the courses and move into professional status. So awesome. And let's see. Mm-hmm. Yep. 3 years. It's been 3 years since her last purge. Yep. This is the client with, but when she purges, she puts the items in storage. Yeah. I know. It's those storage units can be quite the crutch. It's not really a purge if you just sort of move it to a storage unit, but I know people do that. They also clean their cars by putting things in bags and then moving those things into a closet. I don't know if you guys have, I found that so many times over the years. I'll be going through a clothing closet or a coat closet, and it's just like plastic bags of the most random things. And I go, yeah, they cleaned out their car. And instead of putting things away, they just put in a bag. And now we're dealing with it. So, oh, hey, Tim. Yeah, I saw that you got a course. I'm glad you're enjoying that information. And once you're in the courses, there's like a comments section in the course. If you have any questions, you can ask them there as they come up. Oh, hi, Nancy. Nancy with the easy question. How do you help a hoarder? Yeah. I did a video recently, and someone just asked me this today, actually. So, what do you do with hoarders? How do you work with hoarders? And how I explained in this video, and what I'll say here is that most of my work with hoarders is actually what I consider a post hoarding clear out, meaning that I am working with the family members, the spouse, the parent, someone who has sort of inherited the hordes of stuff after the person has moved away or possibly even passed away. So just for you guys as professionals, just keep that in mind that I find it extremely so much easier to kind of deal with a hoarded house versus a person who actively hoards. So when you're taking jobs and people are asking you about working with hoarders and what you do, um, just keep that in mind. Is this a job where I am help someone clear out a house where there was hoarding past tense, or am I working with directly with a person who is actively hoarding? Because those two job experiences are going to be very different. One of them is going to be very straightforward, and you're going to be able to, use your project management skills, work with your local hauling company and estate agents and donation centers to kind of tackle that job. The other one, and this is where I shy away a bit from working with active hoarders, because if they're not getting the best thing they can do is to work with a therapist who specializes in HD, hoarding disorder, because it really is a mental condition. And until they stop the act of hoarding or accumulation, there's not a whole lot we can do as organizers. I have a friend in the organizing business, and she described it as rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. So you're sort of, organizing and you're rearranging, and you might clear out things a little bit, but at the end of the day, it may not, it just doesn't matter in the big scheme of things. Um, I have worked with some hoarders who were actively hoarding, but typically there is some really major thing that has to happen in their home to they're not just going to wake up one day and say, oh, I should have an organizer clear all this out. They're not really going to do that. It's usually something like the county or city has started to have fees, or charge them for the clutter, like in their yard. So I've had people that realize it's just cheaper to work with me to, clear out that space than to pay the fees that it cost for the violations. So, I think there has to be some catalyst in their life that makes them need to change the space, at least temporarily, like a renovation. sometimes they have a damage to their home and it can't be repaired until the house is cleared. Um, I had some clients that had they had to bring in medical equipment. Actually, I've had a few clients like this where they need to bring in medical equipment or kind of change out some furniture because of a medical condition, and that was enough catalyst to at least bring me in to help clear out a couple of rooms. You just, you need to be safe about it. Definitely wear your PPE, your mask, your gloves, and definitely watch. You guys should watch that video on my YouTube channel about working in hoarded spaces, because I talk about the professional boundaries. So what are your boundaries as far as, is it too bad? I won't work in houses that are condemned. I don't work where there's been active or even recent animal hoarding. So have your professional boundaries in place. And for training, ICD, the Institute for Challenging Disorganization, I think their website, it's so hard to remember their website because it's not the same as their name, but I think it's, just look up ICD, Institute for Challenging Disorganization. And you'll find them best training for working with this population. Definitely check that out. And they're doing some free training right now for if you're a Napo member or a member of another trade association, you can go to their website and get some free training. They've been doing that during COVID. So lots of resources. I mean, it's a big decision to, I mean, it's big to decide if you're going to work with that population. It's not something I would just jump into. I would get your training, get your resources in place, know your professional boundaries, and then the nice thing about working with that population is that there are so many organizers who do not want to work with that population that they will refer business to you. So if there is not a professional organizer in your community who works with the hoarding population, consider that as a specialty, because you will get referrals from other organizers who don't want to deal with it. Yeah, so Amanda said, I thought I saw something on the NAPO website that said I need 1,500 hours of work to get certified, but now I don't see that info. Yeah, it's there. Go to, so napo.net is the website. And if you go over to certification, and probably the best resource for you, there is a handbook, and it's a BCPO handbook, and everything is, it's there. There's so much information on their website, you guys, it can be really, really overwhelming. But yes, check that out. They did change it recently to where you need 1,500 hours over 5 years is the new rule, over 3 years. And I don't know if the last I checked, the workbook was not updated. It still said 3 years. So just keep that in mind. And that also goes into the substitutions, where you can substitute some of those hours and some of the activities that you can do. And it goes into detail. So yeah, it's there. Just pull up the handbook. I think it's a separate PDF that's there somewhere. Hi Anne. Yep, just talking about business in general. Still finishing the KonMari process in my home. Yeah, and for you guys that are looking to become KonMari certified, one of the first steps is to use the KonMari method in your home. And for those of you who don't know the KonMari method, it doesn't work until, I mean, you're not finished with the process until you examine every item in your house. So, and you're going to do it in order. You're going to go clothing, and then books, and then papers, and so forth. So, yeah, but doing it yourself, I would recommend that to everyone. It's a fantastic way to examine what's important in your life, and just a great learning experience. But yeah, so that is a requirement first for the KonMari certification, and then you will submit photos to the certification board, or KonMari Incorporated, or however, from their website. And then that's a requirement for taking the workshop and then becoming certified. And since we were talking about NAPO, I'll just throw in here for KonMari certification, it's the minimum requirement is, I think it's about 30 hours, but you have to take a client from start to finish through the KonMari process. So, in my experience, I actually worked double the amount of hours. I think I did about 75 hours to get my certification for the KonMari work. So it took me about 6 months, and I think that's sort of average, about 6 months. But compared to the 1,500 hours, for NAPO, if you are specifically wanting to work in the KonMari world, you may want to look into that certification. And also, you can do both, because you can work as a KonMari consultant, and those hours would count towards the 1,500 hours as long as they meet the requirements for NAPO, which I think is that they're paid and that you are transferring skills to your clients. So you can do both and get the KonMari first and then work towards NAPO, or however. But sorry, just reading the comments here. Cards. Oh yeah, the the car clean out. Yep. And so Tim says, what's the proper way to let a hoarder know you don't work with their situation? Okay, that's an awesome question, actually, Tim. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm pre-screening my clients when they call. And if I can't, I think do you have the Essential Forms course? In the Essential Forms course is that questionnaire. And I think that I'm not sure if that's the class you bought, but let me put Essential Forms. Let me just put that in the comments, because this is kind of relevant to that. So the first thing I do is I pre-screen my clients, and that is a conversation over the phone that I'm having with those clients. And I can ask certain questions, and I have them broken down in the Essential Forms. Of course, there's a questionnaire, and I believe this is one of the questions. I'll say, does clutter inhibit any, like, the use of any spaces in your home? So that's like a good question to ask someone over the phone if you're trying to because someone may or may not say they're a hoarder. I mean, I've had people call and say, I'm a hoarder, and their house it's just a little messy. Like, they're not a hoarder. So people kind of throw the term around, but they're not actually defined as a hoarder, or their behavior or their space would not be defined that way. So I like to get as much information as I can over the phone through pre-screening questions, and I can usually determine if they're chronically disorganized, or what the state of their home is. So that's initially. Then if I'm getting some good vibes from them, and I feel like, okay, this is someone I could probably help, and I like to find out, and I've gotten to a point in my career where I will just kind of straight out ask them, like, are you ready to let go of some things in your home? I'm not there to just throw your stuff away. I'm not going to get rid of anything without permission, but the decluttering is a crucial part to having your home function and be organized. So, and believe it or not, I've actually had some people say, nope, I'm not going to get rid of anything. And I say, well, call a moving company and put it in a storage unit, because it actually will be cheaper. Well, it's not going to be cheaper in the long run, as we know from paying $3,000. But I may say, it's cheaper in the short term to just move it out and don't work with me. But that's just on occasion people will say, I'm absolutely will not get rid of anything. I just want you to come in and make it better by stacking up bins or putting in shelves or whatever. So to me, that's a big red flag that this is just not going to be a productive relationship. And so I may just turn that job down. But most of the time I've done that pre-screening. I kind of know what I'm getting into, and then I will schedule a consultation. So the nice thing about the consultation is it's a planning session. It's a time for me to give them tips and tricks and resources and product recommendations, instead of going through the process of them making decisions. So there's really no decisions that they're making during that consultation time. So I have done a number of consultations with hoarders and advised them on, some of the safety violations, talked about kind of what would go into this if we were to do a clear out, how we would start, and just it's almost, I mean, I'm obviously not a therapist, and I wouldn't claim to be one in any way, but it is very consultative and kind of just talking to them and sort of seeing where they are. So I like to do the consultations, and sometimes with hoarders, I'm only doing the consultation. So I'm just, letting them know what their options are. Kind of seeing where they are in the process. And I've left consultations realizing that, either the house is not safe for me to work in or the person is not emotionally ready. But I charge for, that service to them because I am giving them resources, recommendations. We're writing out an action plan, all the steps and things that it would take to clear out their house and the resources that they need. So I am providing resources to them, but I'm not physically going in and doing the work. So that is a time too that we can both decide if this is going to be a productive relationship. And so, I don't recommend, especially if there's any indication over the phone that they're chronically disorganized or that they are potentially a hoarder, that you just go in and start doing a work session. I don't recommend that. I mean, it would you certainly could, but it would probably not be very productive if you haven't done a little bit of pre-work with them. So, and then, yeah, I mean, Tim, to answer your question, it usually comes out in that consultation if we're going to be able to work. And so, if I have to say, this is not a safe environment for me to work in, maybe there's not exits. Like, I like to work in places where there's at least two exit points or I'm going to work outside. So if there's not a way for me to kind of get out of a room once I've gotten into it, or sort of it's just not safe. And so I am very honest. I will tell the client that. I told a client once that they had to remove a lot of guns from the house before we could work together because it just wasn't a safe environment. So that consultation time, starting with a phone call and the in-person consultation, is a great time to talk to your client about. I try to phrase it as, if we are to work together, if I'm going to bring in my hauling team or cleanup crew, these things need to happen first. And I will give them that list, and then I will follow up with them to say, hey, were you able to do these things so we can move forward in the process? So, so yeah, just tell them what the requirements are and then follow up with them. Oh, okay. So someone has a consultation today. They want to downsize. They want they want to make room for their new baby, and I don't know where to start. Charmaine. I don't know how to pronounce that, but okay. Well, the nice thing about the consultation is you are assessing the whole home. And as far as where to start, just a couple of really quick tips. I would not start with paperwork or sentimental items. I mentioned earlier, those are the most tedious things to go through. They're saying they want to make room for a new baby. I don't know if they're setting up a nursery, but if there's a specific room, like a guest room, that is going to become the nursery, if they're making space, that's probably the room I would focus on. So when I do my whole home consultations, I look in every, closet, corner, attic, storage area, basement, to kind of get an assessment of the whole house and what storage options are available. And then I prioritize. So I say, okay, we should start in your kitchen because, you're starting a new diet and that's the priority in your life. So, I help them prioritize what rooms we're going to work in. And I think that would be a pretty easy one if they are setting up a nursery or a space. So I've converted a lot of like home offices and guest rooms into home offices, and home offices into nurseries, and all of these things. So, yeah, I would do a whole home. I would do a walkthrough of the whole house, because that's going to help you identify Sometimes a lot of organizing is just getting things moved to different parts of the house. And if you haven't seen the whole space, it's really difficult to do that. So, you may be working on office supplies, but you didn't realize that they have space on the third floor where they could also set up an office. So, you might be in a guest room, but really you should be in this other space. So, definitely take a whole home tour, talk to them about what is important, and then if, let's say, your first project is converting that room into a nursery, or setting up the new baby space, I always fall back on my three-step process, which is GDP. So once I'm in the space where I'm working, the first thing I do is gather and sort like items. So if I'm in that nursery, I'm going to sort everything into categories. Then I'm going to walk the client through, to ask them, what do you need this category? Do you need that category? That decision making process, and that's really where the decluttering happens, is in that second step. And then once you've decluttered that space, now you can organize it, and that's where you get your containers and make your labels and make everything pretty. And maybe you need to talk to someone about putting in extra shelving or maximizing space in a closet. So yeah, I'm excited. I hope that works out for you, and that just remember, you don't have to do everything on the first session, you guys. Like, you're going to walk into a house and you're going to realize, wow, this is like 17 projects, which is great. Good for you, because hopefully you will get booked to do all of those projects. But, break it down into manageable projects that you can accomplish per a session, with that client. Always break it down, and then schedule your appointments for, each of those projects. So I want to jump back to one question that I got in email, and that was, oh, let me double check. It was about the referral. Hold on, let me read this. Could you explain your referral system when someone refers you to someone else? And this is a really great little marketing trick to do as well, because if you're doing this right, if you're doing your marketing right, you really just need to start with like 5 clients, because those 5 clients will refer you to, 20 clients, and then those 20 clients will refer you to 30 clients, and then you have a full book of business. So it's really important to get referrals from your existing clients. So a really quick tip for this is, I'm working with the client that's already hired me. I will say, hey, I have a referral program. I might even email them this, but I like to tell them verbally as well. Say, hey, if you refer a client to me, once they pay for their session, make sure they become a paying client. The person that they refer, once they pay me, or we complete a paid session, then I will give you, a $25 gift card towards my services, a $50 gift card, 10% off, whatever you want to do. And then they will refer the client. I'll work with the second client, and then after that, I will send a note to the first client and say, thank you very much, for that referral. And then I will give them something. For me, it's just like a paper kind of gift certificate that I printed. Well, actually, I think I did have them professionally printed in the beginning, but you could absolutely just do this on your home computer or from Canva or something. But a gift certificate that says, hey, you take $25 off your next service, and then put an expiration date on that so that they know to go ahead and book that time with you. So now you actually have followed up with that first client to get a job. And in the card, if I write them a handwritten note, I might say, hey, I know we wanted to get to your basement this spring, and da da da, so kind of remind them of the project that you have talked about during the planning session. And then so that person should be booking, and now of course you have a new client. So just make sure you have an incentive program in place for your existing clients to refer clients to you, because that's a huge part of this business, is getting referrals. I mean, I could talk about that for hours, but I do recommend that it's a great way to build your business is referrals from existing clients, other professional organizers, and other businesses in your local community. So I love this question. Do you have any advice for a 17-year-old starting an organization business? That is awesome. I know Marie Kondo talks about, I don't know, I think she was, yeah, a teenager, organizing for her friends and family. Yeah, I mean, what's great, I think, about being a 17-year-old is you're probably really comfortable with some, social media outlets like doing videos and photos is really much bigger, and people are more like comfortable doing that with in that generation. It took me a little longer to get comfortable on video and social media with my business, but yeah, I would start doing jobs for families and your friends, and it's, I think, not that different from anyone starting an organizing business. You want to take photos of the spaces that you're working in with permission from people, and build a portfolio, so that you have examples of your work with before and after pictures. You want to get testimonials, just get your friends or whoever you're working for in their space to write you a note. And yeah, I guess you'd have to be 18 to actually open a bank account and all of those pieces of starting a business. But I think you could go ahead and um, do projects. I mean, organize your own space, organize your home, and then start getting some training too. I mean, just like you would be going to college, or getting an education for any type of business. I think if I was going to college and I wanted to be a professional organizer, I'd probably get a degree in like business or marketing. Marketing your own business. I find that is, I almost spend as much time on the marketing side of it as I do the organizing side of it. So if you're preparing yourself to start a business on your own, you definitely want to understand some of the business, accounting pieces of it, take some, get some information about starting a business, and then the marketing piece of it is so crucial. So get some training. I actually think Napo, if you go to napo.net, I think they have a student membership. So, which I think is a very I think you can get the courses, and it's probably a discounted version of the professional membership. So go to napo.net and check that out. I know they did that at one time. I'm not sure if they're still offering that, but it would be lovely for you to take those classes at a discount, right? A discount that the rest of us don't, wouldn't have that option to do. But I would assume it's the same courses that everyone else can take. So take advantage of that now while you are, younger or in school. So good luck to you. Um, Thank you, thank you. Um, yeah, flight attendant, always have an emergency exit. Yeah, I, it's all about safety sometimes going in these houses, and it's like, I, I say this phrase a lot, like, what's your exit strategy? Like if I'm working with another organizer, um, and we're kind of like boxing things up, and I'm like, what's your exit strategy? What are you doing? Don't box yourself in. It actually comes out quite a bit when we're working in very large cluttered spaces, and you're I know if I'm unpacking a house, those big wardrobe boxes where people can keep their clothes hung and then moved in, boy, you can really, I always break those down first, because it's like you can't move in a house, around all of these boxes. So just always, for safety, always check your surroundings. Okay, so we have a question about deciding what to charge. Do you have a base charge and then add or subtract add or subtract for each client? Do you offer packages? How do you handle clients who are not willing to pay what you charge? Oh, well, that's probably not someone I would work with. I'm transparent about my fees. It's something that I talk about. Again, I like to do that initial phone call with anyone that I'm going to work with. And that is something that I would bring up. I'd say, okay, I'm gonna come to your house and it's gonna be $200 and we're gonna do blah 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 and I'm gonna be there for X number of hours. Okay, and they agree to that over the phone. It's extremely rare. I literally in almost 20 years can think of one person that they left during the session and just sort of didn't come back and never paid me one time, and it was very strange, and there were probably some red flags with that person. I will tell you, if you're working with someone and they constantly are saying, oh, I need to sue this person, or I'm going to sue that person, or I didn't like that person, it's probably not someone you want to work with, because I just feel like when someone starts talking about that, I'm like, oh gosh, I haven't even worked with you yet, but I feel like you're going to come after me at some point, because, there's just some people that are kind of yucky and you don't really want to work with them. So I still to this day, and this was probably 12 years ago, maybe even longer. I have no idea. I have no idea what happened. They just left. And they didn't pay me and they didn't come back. But that is a very isolated situation. 99.999% of my clients are lovely. I talk about my fees and pricing over the phone. They also have the option to book online, and that they would be paying for either the full service or a deposit. So that way I have a cancellation fee if they leave. I just have a session, what I call a session price, and then I do multiple sessions with clients. So I don't tend to offer packages. There's only a few times that I offer a package, and that is when I'm unpacking a house. I usually do price it as a 3-day, 3 organizers, depending on the number of boxes, like a package, just because I know how much time it's going to take to unpack things and set up a kitchen. And so I do tend to offer that as a sort of a package price. I kind of price out those 3 days instead of just saying, oh, it's going to be a session. But my clients are either paying for a consultation, which I guess is kind of it's a one price for the action plan and 2 hours on site if I'm doing that in person. And I tend not to charge by the hour, because I realized very early what would happen is I would say, okay, my hourly rate's, $50 or whatever it was. And I'd say, and then the client would book a session for 3 hours. And then I would show up and they would say, hey, I need to leave in an hour, so we're just going to do an hour today. And that is like the worst way to try to stay in business as a professional organizer, because you think about it, I thought I was collecting $150 for sort of half a day's work, and then I can kind of build my business on, what that would look like in, as far as my fees for accounting and marketing and insurance and all those things. And then you show up and you realize, oh, I'm only getting $50 for a half a day of work, but it's not like you can just book those other 2 hours. So you're just kind of stuck with that. So that happened literally within the first few months that I was in business. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. So I do charge a session. So if something happens and they have to leave, obviously if something happened with me and I had to leave, I wouldn't charge them a full session, but I don't think that's ever happened. It's that something happens with them, or they want to cut the session short or whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm still collecting that fee. So that kind of protects me in my income to keep my business open. So I do the sessions. Packages. Again, I only do packages in a few situations, and I have to say, since I know a lot of you guys are very new organizers, I actually recommend that you do session pricing in the beginning to get some quick sales under your belt before you offer packages, because packages can be kind of complicated and sort of overwhelming for the client, and you're just kind of getting to know them and getting to know like what you can do and the pace. So I would say until you have a few clients under your belt, I probably would not go for packages until you have a little bit more experience, because it's a lot easier. I find one of the easiest things to sell over the phone with a new client is a consultation, because it's no obligation. You're just getting in the door. I do charge for consultations, and I think you guys should as well. Um, but it's something that it's a lower cost, sort of lower commitment, and then you can get in the door, and then you can kind of figure out, is this person, chronically disorganized? Like what's going on here? And I think it's good for new organizers to kind of size people up. So yeah, when I'm coaching new organizers, which, oh, I should mention, by the way, the next coaching program starts in January, and the doors are open now. So let me put, I always forget to do this in the beginning, but let me just put a link in here. And also for those guys watching the replay, I do want to let you know that I only offer this a few times a year. So if you want to get into the January coaching, it's a 6-week program, but it actually starts as soon as you sign up. But that will be the program that runs January and February. So if you want to get in there, there is the link for you. So with my coaching students, I recommend initially that they're doing the consultations, because it's again, it's like a quick sell. Like, we're not all experienced salespeople. We're organizers, and we like to organize. So until you're really comfortable with your sales pitch, I guess, what you want to do is get in the door with people and then kind of schedule out that bigger project. So I find that booking a consultation initially sort of takes a little bit of that pressure off. And then later you could put something together in a package, or you could book multiple sessions, or you could have like a monthly service with someone if it's going to be like a maintenance client and that type of thing. So, another thing about charging, just really generic, if you go online, it's like, oh, professional organizers charge between $30 and $150 an hour or something. It's really vague. So you want to think about your own experience and your market. So a professional organizer in Manhattan is going to charge more than a professional organizer in like a small town in Virginia, So keep in mind the market. There should be kind of a scale that you can figure out for your market, what your market is used to paying for this type of service, and then decide where you want to be with your experience and your training and your certification to charge that that top dollar, and then sort of work your way up from there. Yeah, Tim, you're asking about Thumbtack and Home Advisor. I have mixed feelings about them. I would say if you have 0 clients and you're trying to get that first like 5, 10, 15 clients, you may need to use a lead service like Thumbtack, Home Advisor. Thumbtack, do your research on this, because Home Advisor, well, both of them sort of changed their pricing a lot, so it's hard for me to kind of keep up to date about how much they charge to use their services. Thumbtack, there's definitely, I know in my market, there's a ton of leads that come through on Thumbtack. I tend to not take them because the clientele does not want to pay my prices. But I'm not just starting out, so I'm at the higher end in my market. So, but if you are looking for those first 5 to 10 clients and you are pricing yourself a little bit on the lower end, you probably could pick up some Thumbtack jobs just to get experience and kind of figure out, what's going on out there. And quick and easy to set up a Thumbtack listing. Home Advisor, the only thing that kind of, it's kind of same thing. Your people are going to be shopping based on price with home services. But again, if you're just looking to get your first 5 to 10 clients, you kind of need to do what you need to do. And I know in my market, again, there are absolutely leads that come through on Home Advisor. There's a couple of organizers in my market who love it, and they pay the advertising fees, and they absolutely get leads there. The Initially with Home Advisor, just make sure you don't get confused with people that build closet systems. Sometimes with these referral sources, they kind of lump in the organizing service with the people that do closet installs. And in my market, the people who do closet installs do not sort through people's belongings and help them make decisions about what they don't declutter or organize at all. They just come in and they design the closet, and then they say, make sure this stuff is somewhere else when we come in, and then they put in the shelving, and then they leave. Which, by the way, is another is a good reason to have a connection with those closet companies, because they're kind of marketing as organizers, but they don't organize. So just make sure on Home Advisor, if you're paying for leads, whether or not you book them, just make sure that they don't confuse you with that. There's another referral source called Find My Organizer, and that is only organizing services. So, and it's specific to your like county and location. So you might want to check that one out. And then I've gotten jobs off Angie's List as well. They've also changed the way that they do their advertising, but I think lead services, again, if you're trying to get from client, you have 0 clients and you're trying to get to like the first 10 clients or 15 clients to then get referrals and kind of build your business and before and after pictures, definitely look into the lead generators like Thumbtack, Home Advisor, Angie's List, Find My Organizer. Also, make sure you're getting referrals from those people, because ultimately you want to build yourself up on Google as well. So when people say find an organizer in, fill in the blank with your zip code or town, see who's listed there. But often people with Google reviews and when their businesses are set up on Google will come up. So you can get the referrals off of Thumbtack, but also make sure they put a review on Google. And then, like I said, for this first, 5-10 clients, you may need to do that depending on how competitive your marketing is. I have a strong passion for organizing and what it does for people. I want so much so that I want to start a business as a side hustle. Yeah, and I mean, whenever anyone says I'm going to be a professional organizer, sort of side hustle, I like to say that you might want to think about really putting a lot of energy and focus into building your organizing business, and then having another job as a side hustle. And the reason I say that is because often people ask me like, oh, I want to charge top dollar for my services, and I want to, compete with the organizers for jobs, in my market. And you really, in order to do that, you really need to present yourself as a credible, expert. And so to go from what I call the friends and family rate, that people might pay you, to the business rate, something that's going to be a full-time income for you and support, all the expenses of having a business, like training and insurance and, all of those things. So if you're starting it, yeah, you can do work for friends and families, friends and family, take pictures, get testimonials, build up your social media. You guys can do that before establishing a business. You can start an Instagram account, you can start a Facebook page, just as something you're doing as a side hustle. But I do think it's important that to just understand that when you're ready to take that leap from side hustle to like full-time, business owner, that people are going to look to you to be sort of credentialed and experienced and all of those things. So I say that because when I started my business, I had to do side hustles to pay my mortgage and my car payment, but I always put my professional organizing business first. So that was my, I would essentially work 40 hours either, doing pro bono jobs or starting to get paid clients or working on my website or, getting things built up. And then I would have a side hustle of, I think, gosh, I've had so many, I had so many side hustles in the beginning, but one of them was teaching computer classes at night. So, I would work on my business all day, and then nights and weekends, I would have my side hustle. So, but yeah, there's definitely a lot that you can do to get your business to start marketing and certainly all the training. You can take courses and get your training while you're still working your full-time job. Awesome. Anne asked an interesting question. And it's funny, when I think of side hustles, I do think of Marie Kondo because, so her book, I'm trying to look on my bookshelf over here, Joy at Work. That was her latest book that came out this year. I feel like it didn't get like a ton of fanfare because it hit like I think it came out in April, which was like peak COVID time. But she actually wrote this great book called Joy at Work. And she does talk a little bit more about how she started her business. And she was working full time at a staffing agency. And she was organizing on the weekends. And it just, I guess, kind of hit a tipping point where she felt like she was terrible at her job, her full time job. And she, uh, had was very busy on the weekend, and then she would, even like during her staffing job, she would talk to people about like organizing their desk and try to get these other jobs. So she was working a full-time job when she started as an organizing consultant, and then I think after she just became exhausted working on the weekends and also just not being that great at her full-time job because she was just recruiting people to work to become organizing clients for her, that she left that job. And to our attendee who was talking about being 17, I mean, young, she's still very young. I think she's 36 now. And so, she did start, when I talk to people that are, teenagers or in their 20s, like, oh, can I start a business? It's like, well, Marie Kondo did. And, that turned out pretty well for her. So, not, no age limits on becoming an entrepreneur. Awesome, guys. Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you again. I usually say this at the beginning, but thanks for you guys for connecting with me over this last year. I know I'm spending a lot more time at home, a lot less time with clients, and so I've really enjoyed this interaction with you guys. Couple of things coming up. So I'm sort of, it feels weird to say I'm on vacation the next 2 weeks because I'm not going anywhere. I'll be at home, but I'm going to take a vacation from, email and text messages and social media and all of those things. So you guys might not hear from me for a couple of weeks until the new year. And then I'm going to start the new year with another live. So that's going to be probably Thursday, the 7th. And then I think I'm going to go to the first Thursday of the month for lives, and then other Thursdays to put out new content. I've already sort of created my content schedule for most of 2021. But if there is videos that you guys want me to do, or questions that you think are kind of a meatier subject that I should get into over a YouTube video, please let me know. I've got quite a few scheduled for talking about the organizing industry. And then I'm also going to do a series on what I would call productive routines. So what you guys may have noticed about some of your clients is they also have time management issues. And so one of the things that works really well for me is having like household routines with, laundry and grocery shopping and meal planning and all of these things in place, so that my, my life and my mind and, my time are organized in addition to just, having your space put together. So I'm going to be doing a couple of videos about that. I hope to do some interviews. I'd love to interview some people for my YouTube channel. I think that would be really fun. And then, oh, there's a new Netflix. Actually, I just found out about this today. Netflix, I might have to do a video about this in January. The Minimalist guys. I don't know if you know those guys. They did a documentary. They have a book. I think I have a link to their channel on my channel. They have a new show on Netflix, January 1st. So I will definitely do a wrap up of that show. It'll be interesting. Yeah, they usually go really deep with people about like, why do you have things? What is this all about? So they're very serious guys, but it is a really interesting topic, and it's coming out January 1st. And a lot of people have a New Year's resolution of getting organized, so that could have a little boost and impact in our industry, as most shows on Netflix do when they come out. So good luck. Oh, and I don't know if I read Goodbye Things. I can't remember if I read that one. Um, yeah. And there's an old saying that like people won't work with you unless they know, like, and trust you. So, yeah, definitely need to gain the trust of your clients. And I think it's important to do that through the client process. So it starts with that phone call. And sometimes I'll say, look, I'm not here to throw your stuff out. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm not going to throw anything away that you don't want me to do. So, um, yeah, so I start initially phone call, and I can kind of tell, even on the phone or through a Zoom, if I've gained some trust with someone. So I would start with that initially, and then have the consultation. Again, more trust building, more information gathering, more, make it about your client. It's always about them. What is important to you? What would make the space ideal for you? Always turn it back to them. I think professional organizers can sometimes have this persona that we're just going to come in and we're perfect and we know everything and we're just going to tell you and make you get rid of stuff. And I will say, since I know a lot of professional organizers, many of them are like that and have done that. That is not my style, and it certainly does not have to be your style. You absolutely can meet them where they are and connect with them, find out what sparks joy for them, what's important to them, and set up a space that works for them. Not just you coming in and telling them how their space should be organized. I'm sure they've heard that a lot already from friends and family. And I think organizing is all about, making a space that works for you, knowing where your things are. And that's going to be different for everyone. That's going to look a little different from everyone. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Hey, Rebecca. I can color. I know. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the contrast between the home edit and the minimalist guys and how they're approaching the decluttering process. So I'll definitely put out a video. I'm sure I'll binge it the first day. I don't know how long it will be, but I usually, any organizing show that comes out, I usually binge the whole thing, and then I'll do a video on kind of a wrap up. Awesome, guys. Well, like I said, I'll be kind of quiet for the next 2 weeks over the holidays, and everyone, please stay safe and take some time for yourself. I know I'm ready to just curl up on the sofa and have some tea and cookies and watch the snow. I think where I am, we've got snow coming, but yeah, good luck to you guys, and I will talk to everyone in the new year. Bye.